Things are not hard, they're new. And sometimes we confuse those two things.
In this episode of the Speak Your Vision podcast, we sit down and have a conversation with director, cinematographer BP Edwards. We connect on a lot of different things, but ultimately, we recognize our responsibilities as individuals. In this episode, we discuss the word responsibility, the ins and outs of it, me as a mindset coach, and him as a director, cinematographer, and what that looks like in the film industry. You're not going to want to miss this episode because we get real, we get authentic, and we think about what it means to develop as a person every day. Check out the episode. Woo! Welcome all to your place, your space for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams, and not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope. And I couldn't tell you how excited I am about this episode. You've seen the title already. What is our responsibility? But before I get into that, I got to tell you how I met this individual, all right? So supporting one of my boys who's in the film industry, and he introduced me to this other guy. And then him and I get to talking, and when I tell you the stars align, and I'm not a big horoscope person, but then we were like, yo, when's your birthday? And then it was like March 25th. When's yours?
Yeah.
And I was like, March 25th. I was like, yeah. So without further ado, it's crazy. I'm having my twin on today on the podcast. Director, cinematographer, all things and everything in the film industry. Give it up, everybody, for BP Edwards.
What's the deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? And brother, it is always such a pleasure to see your smile, man. Come on. It's always good to see you, bro. So I'm looking very forward to having this conversation. It's a long time coming. Yeah. Schedules are everything when you're an adult, and I love that we could able to put this together, bro. Thank you for creating such a wonderful platform.
Schedules, right? You talk about schedules. And listening to you and talking to you, the fact that we are aligned on so many different concepts, and we'll get into that a bit. That is why I chose our words. See, typically when I have people on the podcast, I say, you give me one word, you set the tone. But in talking with you and connecting with you, the word responsibility came to mind. Because when you show up as a director, when you show up as a cinematographer, and I want to hear more about those things for sure, and all the things that you've created with Bear Vision, but responsibility. Can you tell me a bit about what you feel like your responsibility is, and how important is the word responsibility to you?
Man, so I think that before anything else, we have to really understand what it means to be responsible in the film industry, not just responsible for a product or a service or an experience per se, but really taking responsibility and your own championing of the different energies that you are interacting with as a film professional. I believe that filmmaking is the world's greatest team sport, and we're all having to play together towards a common goal. But if we're not being good people to one another, if we're not advocating for one another in the ways that we should, I think that that's our personal responsibility to making sure that every person, every situation, every experience, all of those things, not one individual thing, are encompassing what it means to have a great experience overall. So I think responsibility is something that is aligned with the overall purpose and goals that Bear Vision has for the world, but also what it is that I look for when as far as connecting with others and creating opportunities for those to grow and excel in this industry that oftentimes does have a negative connotation associated with it, especially as it relates to how humans treat other humans. So it is our responsibility as good people to continue to be good people. You feel me? We got to continue to have that good motion so that we can continue to make that energy move forward.
I got you. That makes all the sense in the world. However, here's my problem with what you just said. Okay. I need you to define something else for me, all right?
Let's talk.
What is or what makes a good person?
You got me on that one, man. And I think that when you know, and I know that that might be vague,
Mm.
but being a good person doesn't have one specific monolithic experience, like I think that there are core tenets that we're raised with that we learn in our truths as we develop. I took this class called Theory of Knowledge from a professor, Frances Nicholson, and I love her. I call her Mama Nicholson to this day. And she said that truth has three different forms. There's the truths that you grow up with, the local truths, the things that are true in your community. Then there's the truths that you experience on a statewide scale or an area geographical related scale. And then there's some universal truths and universal laws that you just have to understand and respect. And modeling the life that I was looking to live, and creating those core tenets within myself, I feel like a good person just follows two simple rules:
Okay.
not lying and making sure your bag clears. Everything else is semantics. Everything else is semantics, right? Like if I like you and I like being around you, that's a semantic thing. But a good person in an industry, especially like the entertainment industry, is someone that wouldn't lie to you. And with everything that they say that they would do, they do. And if you don't do rule number two, you break rule number one by proxy. It's not hard to be a good person in this. But if you were to just continuously be honest, and there's levels to honesty, right? Like there's honesty and then there's tact and rhetoric, right? So it's like you could be honest, but then you could also be a jerk. Or you could also be like a bad person with that honesty. Like you use that power as something that could be utilized negatively instead of positively. So being a good person doesn't ultimately mean that you have to be the most honest person all the time and tell everybody everything in the blunt way that you want to do it and be like, hey, I was being honest, right? Like that's right. So it's like, and I think that's that degree of irresponsibility, right? Like being a responsible human with the level of privilege or the level of respect or the level of access that you have, and being an advocate for those that don't have those opportunities. But that in itself is a semantic, right? Like if I don't like this person, but they do phenomenal work because they don't lie and whatever it says that they're going to do, they do.
Right.
I respect that person enough to
Right.
consider that person a good person for the things that I need them to be a good person for.
I'm with you.
So it's like the usefulness of being a good person means that any space that you fit into, semantics or otherwise, whether you are a cheery human, whether you're great at 9 a.m., whether you are somebody that is going to show up and have a beer with the team at the end of the day, or if you're somebody that goes home right when the hour drops, but you always do what you say what you're going to do and you always commit, that, in my opinion, is what makes a good person.
Show up as you. You know what I mean? I think that if I could do a lot if someone's going to be authentically with me, right? Just be your authentic self. And if you show up as your authentic self and I didn't like that, I mean, you showed me who you were before. So maybe I opened that door to begin with. I'm a really big believer. And if people are going to show me who they are, I'm going to let them.
Believe it the first time. Believe it.
Know what I'm saying?
Who believe it?
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm the first person. I'm all about the second chances. I recognize that people are imperfect. But
are you a second chance guy? You're a second chance guy?
You know, I am a believer in failure.
Talk about it.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that things went right for me the first time.
Okay.
You know, I've talked about my blindness quite a bit on this podcast. But when I tell you that I thought my life had no vision moving forward after I became blind, that is the absolute truth. Okay. Like I didn't know what I did not that I did not know what next was going to look like. I truly didn't believe next existed. I was just going to sit and do nothing. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I guess, how could I not be a second chance person if I gave myself a second chance?
I heard that. And I mean, I agree with you. I'm not a second chance person. I believe that people have the chance of redemption. I believe that we're all inherently good. You know,
right?
Like,
yeah.
And you know that there's that philosophical debate: are babies born good or evil, or like do they have the inherent good, like traits for good, and then they learn evil, or vice versa? I think that duality exists in all things.
Yeah.
And to know that one could be the other had the circumstances been shifted, to give somebody the chance to be a good person means to believe that your again, that responsibility piece is coming full circle, right? It's just like having that responsibility or that innate desire to want to make somebody see the error of their ways, if that's the person or the messenger, if you are the messenger for that person to know that there is redemption in the path that you're on, then that second chance is something that they are ultimately going to take and run with and be successful in, et cetera. And I think that that's our responsibility as someone that I would feel like, and I mean, again, it's all subjective. Someone that might think that I'm not a good person, for example, I am not the barometer for goodness. I have to be right. I have to be cognizant of the fact that my
Yeah.
good does not look like everybody's good. So
Yeah.
if somebody
Correct.
wants to do right by me, I have an obligation as someone that feels like is a good person to give an opportunity to somebody that wants to do right as well. Now, if you do me twice, if you do me twice, then the chopper loads and we got to chop down the tree. Like we gonna have to we have to get rid of it.
So we're gonna get back into this director space here in a moment, but
Okay.
I love
Okay.
where this conversation's going. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Let me give you a different perspective on that.
Talk to me.
So I was at a residential program where I was getting some training, okay, to do
Okay.
things as a blind person, to really learn what it looked like, just because my life had completely changed, okay.
Sure. Sure.
And at this point, I've gotten there and I'm getting into a bit of a rhythm. I've been there for a month or 2 months now, and I was getting a roommate. And my roommate was he came in and he's really scoping everything out, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
he thought I was cool. He was vibing with me, all right? And then he goes to me, Turk, everybody seems kind of cool, but that person over there, he seems a little I don't know.
He's a
I
little
don't trust him.
mm, just a
And
little something.
there's a little something over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I responded to him. I was like, all right, whatever. Okay.
Right.
And he said to me, he was taken aback that I had nothing else to say to that conversation. And he said to me, well, Tariq, do you trust him? I said, I'm not giving him any, like, I have nothing to trust him with.
Right.
So I see how he moves. That's it. Like, I have nothing to trust him with. So it doesn't matter if I trust him or not because I'm not giving him that opportunity.
Right. Right. Right.
So for me, I would say this, it's less about the actions of what a good person is. I think it's, gosh, that's not true.
I would say, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
That's not
How's this?
true.
Okay.
Let me say this. It's more about, I don't want to say actions. I want to say more about moments, in that
Mm,
I want to see how someone truly actively has what their lifestyle is. Like,
right.
what's the energy they are bringing to the table consistently? Because
Right.
people are going to make mistakes.
Got
But
you.
what is the energy? What is your intentions? When you hurt me, when you weren't being a quote unquote a good person, were
Mm-hmm.
you actively trying to hurt me? Or was it a lack of care for the situation? Was it
Sure.
truly an accident? I'm analyzing all those different things because when it comes to a good person and what I feel like my responsibility is as a person,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, when I think of the word responsibility, and this is why I want to have this conversation with you,
Okay.
when I think of the word responsibility for me, my best. Tariq,
Mm.
what are you doing today? My best. That's all I got
Mm-hmm.
for you. I can't
Yep.
promise it's going to be the same every day,
Right.
but what you can expect from me is my best.
Every day seems to be a choose your own adventure for sure. And one thing that I've loved about your journey of discovery, and not even just the blindness perspective, but really just engaging life from a different lens. It's
Yeah.
just there is such a powerful feeling when you can acknowledge that nothing is a monolith.
Yes.
Nothing is singular. Nothing is black or white. It is all gray area. It is all depending on the day. You might wake up and had something happen. A bug might have flew in your nose in the middle of the night and it would have just gave you a headache. And the day that started off different. And now your best is a little bit different than what it would have been if you would have had an angel's rest and an 8 hour fulfillment and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that one of the biggest things that we as humans need to have a better understanding on as it relates to responsibility is
Mhm.
that our responsibility changes just like the seasons do. Our
Hmm.
responsibility for how we show up is actively being dictated by energies and focuses that are around us. Energy is neither created or destroyed, it's only transferred.
Mhm.
So if you were to have a poor transference of energy one day, that responsibility that you carry is going to look a little bit different than the way that you would carry it if you would have had a very strong transfer of energy that day. So we have to give ourselves one, grace, and two, the opportunity to make mistakes. Because if
Yes.
we don't have the grace to give ourselves another chance, and I think that's a beautiful circle moment in itself. Like if we don't have the opportunity to give ourselves grace, then we're never going to improve as people. So we have to take our responsibility to ourselves just as much as we do to people around us, because we have to be responsible for the ways that we are being good people to other people. Just like if the day wakes up and I start a day and I'm not being at my best, I have to walk out with that level of responsibility to know that if I'm going to change my energy today, if my transferences are going to be good, it is my responsibility to make sure that those transferences make sense
Yeah.
every day.
Let's dive into that. You
Okay.
talked a bit about the lens, different
Mhm.
perspective. You appreciate like my perspective, and I appreciate you for that.
Sure.
BP Edwards is on set, and where he's directing, he's the leader of the situation, what's happening, and trying to coordinate the play. Okay.
Hmm.
What is your responsibility to yourself when you're on set? And what's your responsibility to all the people around you when you're on set?
Got you. So the director of photography position of the cinematographer is the highest ranking individual on the below the line spectrum of humans that make filmmaking happen. So above the line would be your directors, your producers, your actors, the people that are in front of the camera or directly working with in front of the camera talent to make all the things make sense. The
Yes.
below the line technicians are the individuals that are working all of the gear and equipment to make it all function properly. So my responsibility to myself is to make sure that I show up and do my best every day. What is your catchphrase? What are you doing today? My best. My
My
best.
best.
My best. And doing my best in those situations is sometimes understanding the intention, sometimes understanding the technical expertise, sometimes being a great human to other humans and being an inclusive environment where people feel respected. And I advocate for others and I create opportunities for people to be collaborative and talk about their ideas and really respecting what it is to be on a set where I feel like an individual sport is me showing up on my own, a team sport is me working with these people to make something great. So I have a responsibility to others to be inclusive, to be in a place of belonging, to make sure that everybody has high morale, and to really discuss what my intentions are and what the impact we're looking to create through film, through this medium, through this script, through this opportunity, through whatever the mediums are. How are we creating great intention? What is the impact we're looking to create? And what techniques can we utilize in order to best showcase what it is that we're looking to show the world? And it's a very delicate and intricate process, especially in pre-production, where you're finding that these are all the potential pitfalls that you're going to hit. And then
Yeah.
when you get on set, it really is, did we prepare enough to make sure that we can get this without a hitch? And a lot of times the answer is no. But
Mm.
what are we going to do today? Our best.
Our best.
We're going to do our best today.
That's it. That's it.
Hmm.
BP, when you talk, bro, I'm listening.
I,
I'm listening.
likewise, bro. You're the GOAT. I'm just here. I'm just here. I'm a guest on your podcast. I heard the intro. I loved the intro. I was here for it. I was like, do you hear how he is engaging the people? This is what good content sounds like. If you
Mm,
ain't in the pod, what you doing?
mm,
What you
mm.
doing? You need to get in the pod, man.
So I need to say something because I'm really listening. I'm hanging on to every word. Okay. And
Got
it's
me. Talk
interesting.
to me.
I have a whole list of what I wanted to do. We may or may
Mhm.
not get to all of it.
Okay, right on.
You, in the beginning, when you were talking about responsibility, you were talking about good person. And that's why I asked you a question about good person, right?
Hmm.
When you then started talking about bring responsibility. And I like how this conversation has already started to evolve. You
Sure.
started talking about great person and great people. We started using the word great all of a sudden. And I don't know if you realized that that happened or not, but it did.
It did.
So then as you were talking, I'm thinking, what's the difference between good and great?
Mm,
And to me, I've never thought about that question in its entirety before, unless I've been talking about sports.
right.
But when I think about some of the differences immediately between good and great, I think about that consistency.
Right.
Because anybody could be good once in a while.
Right.
But if I can be great, I think part of that means that the people who I am around truly know what they're getting when I'm showing up. What are your thoughts on
Sure.
that?
Greatness is something that does come 100% hand in hand with consistency. And I'll tell you a quick story. So
Please.
when I was a kid,
Yes.
I lived in Tahunga. So Tahunga was out in Sunland Valley, a little bit going towards, like Lancaster, if you're familiar with the Los Angeles County area. And my elementary school was like maybe like 2 blocks away from where I lived. So my mom used to walk me to school every day, and she used to tell me a little diddly of a poem, and it's always stuck in my mind, and this is how I define greatness. She said, good, better, best, never let it rest until your good gets better and your better gets best. And greatness is about consistency. So it's like, to hear those words every day is just like, good is good, right? Like, we did good today. Today I did good. You heard that song by Gunna, Today I Did Good.
Hmm.
And to do good is to do good. Like, it was good. And you can't just rest on good, because to be good at something means that you're taking it at face value, the way that you performed, how you showed up today. And if somebody was to validate it and say like, yeah, that was a good job, then you would say, yeah, that's enough. Let's hang up the coat. It's over. But better means that you're taking the criticism, you're taking the good with the bad, you're taking all of the different energies, the research, the odds, ends, and in betweens, and you're creating a better situation for yourself. So your good becomes better when you consistently work on your good. And
Yeah.
your better becomes best when you master what goodness can bring you if you continue to go down that slope. So good defines the beginning. Best defines how you started and ended.
Okay.
And I think that becoming great means that you have to evolve and graduate from just being good. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. You have to continue to push. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean that you are able to be the best you that you can be. And
Mm.
there's the Mamba mentality. Kobe Bryant, rest in peace.
Yes.
He used to talk about, why aren't you celebrating? Because the job's not finished.
Job finish?
Job's not finished.
Job finish? No.
Job's not fit.
We
Job
still got
finished.
we still
Nope.
got a few more games to go.
Still got a few more games to go. And if you're playing life in the way that you should be playing, the games never stop. There's always a game.
Have you seen that there's a Kobe Bryant commercial with Kanye West?
It's one of my favorites. I reference it all the time. Are you a different animal and the same beast? What do you mean, Kobe Bryant?
He was like, more records, more.
What more do you want from me?
you know,
More,
and I
more,
think that is where that greatness part comes in.
for sure.
Um, I think that when it comes to my responsibility to other people and working on being great at it, see, I'm a big believer in making sure that I'm being consistent with my language as well.
Mm,
I have been, I really, I can't talk about eliminating the word try if I'm not eliminating it myself, right? So there's been
sure.
a few times on past episodes where I'll say, I'm trying to do X, Y. Hold on. I'm working on that. That's what I'm working
Mm,
on.
okay.
Because I'll explain. So if So sometimes, how should I say this? When I've taught blind people how to cross the street, and
Hmm.
or even as myself, as a blind person, when I cross the street, do I say I tried to cross the street, or I did cross the street?
You
Right?
definitely did.
I crossed the street, so I didn't try to do anything. I did it.
Hmm.
I bring that up to say that sometimes is an uncomfortable place for people, specifically blind people, if they've never done that particular thing before, or anybody for that matter. If they've never done a particular thing before,
Right.
they may feel uncomfortable. So, my big thing is things aren't necessarily hard, they're new.
Sure.
I was watching you.
That's a word. Hold on. Let's dig into that. I'm not just gonna let you skip over that. Things are not hard, they're new.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes we confuse those two things. It's
Yes.
just like people will throw a budget at you. Oh, here's a budget of $500,000. It'd be like, oh, I've never worked with a $500,000 budget before. And a lot of people are like, man, it must be hard doing that. But
Yeah.
it's not hard.
You've never done it.
You've just never done it before.
You've never
So
done it
you
before.
don't know what you don't know. That's why you don't have. And you
Correct.
have to be cognizant of the words and the verbiage you're using when you're defining the way that people are perceiving you. And I think that we've had this conversation. We had this conversation when we had initially met. It's just
Mhm.
like how we are perceived is oftentimes internal, not external. So it's like what the world sees of us is oftentimes how we see ourselves and what we project into the universe. And
Mhm.
so we will give ourselves a red light before the world even tells us no. So it's like this is not difficult. It's not an uphill battle. It's just a new hill that you got to climb. And if this hill ends up hitting a stride that's different from your previous ones, it doesn't mean that it's harder. It just means that it's new.
And as a mindset coach, as someone who empowers individuals to live the life they want to live, working with employees to either level up in their jobs and or leave that job and overcome that situation to be the person they want to be,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people are going to say like, I can't do that, or I can't do X, Y, and Z, like you were just saying. And I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
tell you, as your mindset coach, you better get that limiting belief out of here, yo.
Right. For sure. For sure. For
Because
sure.
if you're going to accept your limiting beliefs, then they're going to be true.
Right.
Now, I saw you do something that I thought was really neat.
Okay. Talk to me.
You were in the process of, I believe, was recording a commercial, and it was an interview, I believe, that was happening. And you can give me more clarity as I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the individual you were interviewing with or recording, I believe it was her store or something like that. She was
Mm-hmm.
very uncomfortable at first,
Sure.
and she
Sure.
was nervous. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so you were able to, in a sense, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, if you felt like this was your responsibility or not, but ultimately your responsibility was being your best, is what I would say.
Right.
And you were
Right.
able to create a space where that individual was able to be comfortable. Can you tell us a bit about that situation? I know I'm giving you only bits and pieces, but maybe you could explain it a bit better.
There are not too many moments that changed my life.
Mm.
And I think that this might be the first time that anybody has really asked me about this story. And I've never really been able to tell it outside of the context of what, the post on Instagram, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was blessed to be the director of photography for a campaign for GoDaddy called the Icons of Minneapolis. And the one of the things that really like hit me hard during that season was imposter syndrome. And we talk about this a little bit, but being in it, feeling like you're not deserving of the spaces that you're in is something that will definitely take you out of the seasons that God puts you in. You
Mm.
feel me? Like you can't be the person in your mind if you don't believe that you're that person in your spirit.
Come on
You
now.
have to be able to, you have to fuse those two things. And it always starts with the spirit before it goes to the mind. So I was in a situation and my producer Sonica comes up to me and she's like, why don't you direct? I think that you should. I think that you're great at what you're doing. I think that you're amazing at connecting with people. And my other producer, Brandon Barizo, was just like, yo, I think that she's right. You have all of the great makings of, you should just kind of lean into it and just do your thing. Try it out. Why not? And so they gave me the opportunity to direct this segment. And if anybody is listening to this from Minneapolis, Minnesota, you are in the Twin Cities, then Mia Oi at Ichigo Tokyo Crepes is one of the most phenomenal humans I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And we had a moment where she was feeling like she wasn't answering the questions in a way that people were asking for. I mean, you got clients on the line, you got time, so everything is real tight and constricted. So the Icons of Minneapolis series is about small business, or the Icon series is about small businesses that are utilizing GoDaddy products. So they go to those different cities. They'll pull entrepreneurs from different pieces of that, different places in the city, and they'll do small interview segments with them. So we'll ask them questions about products that they utilize, their story, how they have found their communities, and etc. And there were parts of her story that, because she wasn't giving us the quote unquote, and that's how I like to say air quotes, the quote unquote correct answers, she would keep apologizing and wanting to stop and like, oh, I can do that again. And at one point during our break, I said, Mia, can I talk to you over here? And we sat down, and I remember I asked her, can I hold your hand in this moment? And so she gives me her hand, and I said, we're here for you at the end of the day. Your story is your story, and it's only your story to tell. There is no wrong answer in you telling your story. And to speak life into this person as they're embarking on such a wild journey. This person comes from overseas, was engaged in a completely different line of work, and pretty much got it out the mud, was running a small crepe shop out of the back of a different store, doing pop-ups, not having any type of experience in that world, just loved that part, did that work when she was younger, but didn't have like the business sense of doing like the full-fledged thing, like went to school for business and all that, but never ran a business, decided to run a business. And it's like, you have such a beautiful story of triumph. Do not let any of this fool you. We're here for you over anything else. And to know that type of solidness and belief that you are the person that people came to see is something that the world cannot teach you. You have to really dig deep within yourself to eliminate that idea of imposter syndrome within you, because that person went back onto that camera and knocked everything out the park after that conversation. And it's just like that investment, that one investment, having someone tell you, hey, we're here for you. You can answer, you can say everything you want to say on this month. And if you say anything, we're going to believe you.
Right.
Because you have done the work. You are the expert. You are the field technician. You are the person that the world came to see. They flew me out to come talk to you. So if I'm going to come over here and talk to you, I'm not going to be like, I don't like that answer. Can we say that a little differently? Oh, I don't like that answer. Can you give me let's run that one back. Let's do that again. Now, there's always limitations within those things. Like, you got to make sure that the pointed questions get a pointed answer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way that I, as somebody that has come a mile in distance to come and talk to you about your story, will ever tell you that your story is incorrect. And I'll be damned if I let somebody else in this room tell you that your story is incorrect. So we sat there and we got a good tear off, because one thing about me, I'm going to tear up. I'm an emotionally vulnerable man. Okay. I'm going, no, and that's all right, bro. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm going to get a couple of tears off. Right. But it's just like, when you speak life into somebody, you're also speaking life back into yourself.
Yeah.
And there's definitely energy that needs to be transferred to the world that really does tell people that you can. So Mia, if you're watching this, I think about you constantly. I pray that you are successful in all of your endeavors, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for changing my life as well.
You know, it's so funny that you ended it with that quote, because you started off by talking about the fact that you haven't had many moments change your life. and then ended by saying thank you for changing your life to that individual. So let me ask you, you explained the story. What specifically made that a life-changing moment for you? Like if you were to think back how you're a different person today
Mm.
from before that moment, what has made you different after that day?
The belief that I could.
Hmm.
The belief that I could spill life into somebody and they would benefit from, and they would be able to work through whatever anxiety or fear or deficit that they might be feeling in this moment because of all the pressure of having cameras in your face, having lights in your face, being on the spot to answer questions correctly, and needing to get this product thing because this is such a huge opportunity and you don't want to squander it and blah 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 blah. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like I dealt with imposter syndrome literally the day before that. I had a big stint of it. And I sat there and I talked to somebody and they said, why not you?
Yeah.
It's just like in a world where there's so many people living opportunities and everybody does not take advantage of the opportunities that they're presented. And let's be completely honest here. I've been a victim of the same thing. We're
Yeah.
all like victims of circumstance at times. But
100%.
to to then look at yourself in the mirror, overcome that fear of not being the person that's supposed to be in that seat, and then going through and figuring out the best way to pour into not only the human but the project itself, but the people that are associated with it, not just from a talent to a director, but from a human to a human. This is a very humanistic business that for some reason has lost its humanity. And
The
to
film
be some
industry.
the film industry, it is an
Okay.
industry, it is a machine that has a desire to crank out the content things that you're looking for. And as a director, you are responsible for making sure that we hit all the marks. Here, 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 here. Do all the things, make sure that everybody says what they're supposed to say, and we're going to have the product, we'll put it together in post, and everything is going to look great. However, how we get there and how we get it out of those humans is something that a lot of people have different philosophies and schools of thought on. These people are not cattle.
Mm.
These people are not mindless, heartless, or emotionless. They all have their own set of anxieties, fears, places of inadequacy. And there are people that are out there that are completely introverted and just have this unique opportunity to tell their story. And it's just like, I need to do this, but I'm scared. And my role as a director, my role as a cinematographer, my role as a leader on set is
Yes.
not only to be a person that can instill confidence into this person, but instill enough confidence within myself to be able to instill confidence into that person. You know how confident of a person you got to be to tell somebody else they can do it? Like, you know how good you got to, and I'm sure that you have great stories about even when you talked about walking a person across the street for the first time. I'm teaching somebody how to do something that I had to learn and be confident in. And there's some moments that I just did it the day before. I am not an expert, but I am confident enough to say with all of my conviction that I am worthy of the thing that I'm asking of you. And I am worthy because I have gone through that same trial by fire and I have survived. So to be able to walk out of that place of wrath and tears and come out with a fur coat on is the
There you
way that
go.
you become a person that can understand humans. It's called empathy. And having empathy allows for you as the individual to sense that somebody is feeling those feelings that you once felt. You don't need to have even experienced them in the same way that another person is experiencing to understand that those feelings are real and the feelings deserve the level of intentionality that you would want for yourself. If someone was to see you struggling and they said, let me help you, and they gave you and took you time through it and walked you through those situations and allowed for you by the end of that situation to truly feel like you were confident to be able to do it and teach it to somebody else. You give a person a fish, you let them eat for a day. You teach them how to fish, and they will continuously for forever,
Right.
forever. And I am in
Right.
the business of teaching people how to fish.
You mentioned before about teamwork a bit
Mm,
and having your team there with you and people that's going to be there for you when you struggle. A few episodes ago, and real quick, this is not what this episode is going to be about,
that's all right.
but um, a few episodes ago, I talked about Caitlin Clark.
Okay.
And been a lot of back and forth in the news and the media about Caitlin Clark, and some of those things have changed now, which has been pretty cool. But at that point in time, the aggressive play, I'm big into basketball.
Sure.
Basketball's, one of the first loves for me. Love basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my biggest issues is something that wasn't really being talked about a bunch. It had nothing to do with how other players were treating Caitlin Clark. One of my big things was the fact that I was like, where are her teammates at?
Mm.
Where is her backup? Because we're supposed to be a team.
Mm.
Now, I bring that up to say a few years ago, when LeBron James and Rajon Rondo were like some of the elder statements on the LA Lakers, I don't remember
Mm.
who it was on the ground, but it was during their preseason. All right. And one of their teammates got knocked down.
Okay.
And I don't remember if it was LeBron or Rondo, but they were mic'd up, probably Bron. But but anyways, they were mic'd up and he was like, nah, nah, nah. When you get on the ground, you stay on the ground. One of your brothers will come pick you up.
Right.
And that I was like, wow. When you have a community, when you have a team that's working together like that, when you have someone that's there to pick you up when you're down and able to help you dust yourself off and get back up, there's some power behind that. And I I just thought that moment that you shared on Instagram with that interview was so powerful because you created a space
Mm-hmm.
for that individual to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to be her authentic self. And so when
Yes,
I think about responsibility, I think about that moment right there.
for sure. For sure.
So, in terms of the pivots that you have made, in terms of starting off with photography and then leading into cinematography and becoming a director, why the pivots? Was there something in your life that led you towards creativity? And if so, what were those moments? If it's something that happened while you were growing up, what are some of
Mhm.
the experiences that shaped you to get to where you are today?
Well, one of the hardest lessons that I've learned in my life is surrounding ego death. And ego death is such a phenomenal experience, not when you're going through it, but afterwards. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand that your persona that you create over time is the person that you are. And when something life altering happens, the person is forever changed. So it's like that ego death component of creating a new world for yourself and what do you value? What do you see in yourself? So photography has followed me in my adult life since 2015. I was attending Texas A&M University Commerce. I'm a Langston University graduate in Oklahoma. So I graduated, got my master's degree. In the process of getting my master's degree, I was on Craigslist looking for
Mm.
furniture. And I saw a camera that I used to, toy around with one of my fraternity brothers, my line brother Justin Gates, my boy DJ Dirt, and he sold the camera, so ultimately we didn't keep it. But I found that same Canon T3i on a Craigslist ad with a 50 millimeter lens, a kit lens, and some extras for $300. So I give a phone call to my mentor, Kais Wilson. He says, "Yo, this is a good play. You should go out there and run that." So I go to a Home Depot parking lot in Greenville, Texas, and I pick up my first camera. And within a month's time, I shot a sorority formal and made my money back. And I knew right then and there that this was going to be something special. So 2015, 27 to 2017, I graduated with my master's degree. I rebuilt this business in 4 states, in Texas, in Louisiana, in Indiana, and now doing it again in California. I've done it. I've done the work. I've been on the ground. I've built community around it. I've found allies. I've done good projects. One of the most notable moments that I really genuinely knew that this was something that I could do for a living was when I was living in Indiana by way of Bloomington. I was working at IU at the time, and I was really close with this guy, Gavin Everett, and I'm still close with him. We still talk to this day. And he was the commissioner for Black and Brown art at the government level for the city of Bloomington. So they had something called the Black and Brown Arts Festival, the Black E Brown, so like Spanish Black in the Y, like the E, Black E Brown Arts Festival. And he had asked if I wanted to come out and do video. He asked if I'd do video, and at the time I didn't do video. I was just like, bro, I did a couple of video things here and there. But I was just like, I'll come out there and do it. I don't even need no money from you, bro. I don't want a single dime from you. And a lot of people will sleep on the power of not needing anything from anybody. I don't need no money from you. I just want to come out there and show what I can do. I want to do my thing. And I got home after filming maybe at like midnight. And I was so excited about that footage. I'm over here cooking. I'm chopping it up. I get done maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, send it off at 3 o'clock in the morning. Gavin, I had to go edit this. This was fire. Here you go. Gavin calls me at 8 o'clock in the morning saying, you need to come down to City Hall right now. So I'm putting on clothes. I'm rushing. Oh, I got to go to City Hall. So I get in the car. City Hall is maybe like a 10-minute drive downtown. I pull up, park, walk upstairs, walk into the room. Everyone in the room is watching the video.
Wow.
To the point that no one even acknowledged that I came in the room. Like no one saw me, but they were watching me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm just basking in this moment of like, wow, like my work must really mean something in this situation. So a receptionist is like, oh, I'm so sorry. This was, a video that came in from our festival. Did you go to our Black and Brown Arts Festival? Are you familiar with that? Like they're just chopping it up with me. And I'm just like, yeah, like I'm the guy that filmed the video. And then like the end screen of the video has my name on it. So it's just like captured by my name. And they were like, oh my God, this is one of the best videos I've ever seen. You must be doing this. You must be a professional. How long have you been doing this? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just remember being like a proud parent on Christmas Day. Like, I thought you wasn't going to get no gifts today.
Right.
Go ahead and open them gifts, So Gavin walks in after this entire interaction comes on. He was like, there he is. I got to introduce you to this person. So he walks me to the back. He introduces me to the director of marketing for the city of Bloomington. And she immediately offers me a job.
Wow.
She offered me a job. I think it was like $35,000 a year to do video for the city of Bloomington, to just be an on-staff media person for the city of Bloomington. And in that moment, I knew that if it was worth $30,000, $35,000 a year salary at this place for the government level, I am really worth $300,000.
Right.
I'm worth $1 million. I'm worth 300 million,
Right.
So I immediately was like, no, I don't think that I can do that. That's not something that I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to have my art be something that I do for somebody else on salary. Like I don't want to pull up 40 hours a week to do my art.
Right.
So the immediate response is, oh, okay, I guess I understand that. How would you like to be a vendor for the city and do contract projects? And at this point, I didn't even know that this existed. I was just taking cash deals for projects. Like, hey, just give me a little photo shoot here, $200. I'll get paid $200, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I'm immediately, so what does that entail? How do we get that? How do we make that make sense? She said, I'll put in a phone call to the business bureau next, and the business bureau is like down the street. So like, I'll get a call to the business people. You go fill out some paperwork, and we'll get you on a listing so you can be a person that does contract work for the city. So you can get paid per project instead of being paid on a salary. So all of these things are like the amalgamation of what created. It's like a villain origin story, like a hero origin story, So it's like all of these experiences are the things that I'm just like, oh, this is what people do as 1099 contractors.
Yeah.
This is what somebody can do to make money without needing to clock in 40 hours a week for a person. I come from a background, my dad was like, you need to go to college, get a job, all the things. Like that was what I learned as a child. And when I grew up, I learned that there was this entirely other world of manifest destiny that I had no idea about. And I was completely oblivious to how the game works or how to even do the things for it. But because I was that type of person to go out and ask the questions and be like, I want to learn from you. I want to learn how this works. So I started picking everybody that I learned's brain. I started taking PA jobs, production assistant jobs on commercials. I'm driving a van, 20 hours. I'm driving a van 12 hours. I'm picking up coffee just to be in the room with people, just to see how it goes. I carry around a small notebook. Actually, this is the notebook. I used to carry around this notebook and used to go on set and be writing down, what does this mean? What is an airy? What is a stinger? What is this thing? What is that? And I used to do that in so many different avenues that at some point I had to start realizing that I needed to start researching these things. So I would go home, get on YouTube, and learn. And so about a year into it, I met this guy named Corey Waters. And Corey Waters is a DP. He's a director of photography, same position as I. And he was the first director of photography that I ever really noticed as like, oh, this guy's cooking. I got to do something like this. How do I get to this level? Bro's on roller skates with the whole camera attached to him on an apparatus I didn't understand at the time, doing a big one. And I'm like, yo, this guy's cooking.
Yeah.
I like this guy. So I'm like sold. And mind you, this is my 2021 young brain, didn't know anything about how this was work. This is also in COVID. So I had nothing but time and energy to just research. I'm reading.
Research.
All you got to do your research. So it's like, and I feel like I might, even if I've deviated from the point of this question, I think that I genuinely found myself enamored by what it meant to do this in excellence, what it meant to do this at a level that people knew what it was that you were looking to do. I didn't go to film school, and I'm not going to film school unless somebody paid for me to go to film school. If you're listening to this and you have me film school money, send me some film school money, but I'm not paying to go to film school. Shameless plug, baby. Shameless plug. But if it was something that was for me, it would work out for me. And God showed me very early on that this was something that I was capable of. I am a fan of Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers specifically. There's a part in the movie where they're shooting this orc with a bow. He's running with a bomb. He's got a bomb in his hand. He's running towards the castle, or towards Minas Tirith, I think it was. But if I'm wrong, don't let the Lord of the Rings people hear this. But I love that movie. But they're shooting him, but they're creating dramatic tension because they're using slow motion to show the arrow hitting this guy, and they're yelling at him, shoot him again. But by the third arrow hit, the guy jumps into the well, or the sewer drain pipe, and the whole wall goes up in smoke, bro. The whole thing blows up. I remember being devastated as a child. I was, oh my God, this is the most beautiful cinematic everything in the world.
Yeah.
And what I felt like was the most important thing to that for me was how many people it took to make that make sense.
I see. That team.
That how were people organized to make that make sense? And yes, there's directors. There was a director for that, and that person decided all of the angles and etc. But there was somebody from the technical sense that had to pull all the strings to make it happen. And that's when I connected the dot. I want to be a director of photography. That is what I want to do. So it's like everything else was just byproduct and proxy.
And things just started falling into place for you. And ultimately, if it's for you, it's for you. It will be you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I recently, and it's live out now. I recently, and it's live right now, recently dropped an e-workbook.
Okay.
Empowering Your Journey, the how-to guide to prioritize yourself.
The how-to guide to prioritize yourself.
And I think a lot of times we think about how priorities look and what they're supposed to feel like, and we're thinking about what society is coming in at us, and oh, I can't do that thing because they will look at me in a different way, or I can't be my authentic self at that place because they'll look down on me for this or that, and that's just not me, even though it is you.
Right.
Take the time to discover you. Every day we have to learn more about ourselves. We're changing every day. We have different situations that we have to be that we are a part of. And it's interesting to hear your stories, BP, and to hear the growth and to hear the transformation, to be like, I was this, but then I became that, and I'm realizing what's actually for me. It seems like the path illuminated before you.
Sure.
And it started happening like, oh, I'm at the right place. And I would want to make sure that all of our listeners understand that, and I talked about this recently, it's not necessarily but where you're not, but put yourself where you want to be. So, with all that being said, when you think about all your responsibilities and putting the team together and how you got here and how you never even realized that this was for you until the path showed itself.
Sure.
What would you want our listeners to understand about the film industry in this episode today?
About the film industry specifically.
Yes, sir.
If you build it, they'll come. If you build an experience, if you build a rapport, if you build a community, those that are supposed to be in your circle will come. Those that are supposed to elevate you to that place of prominence that you're looking for as a filmmaking professional, they will find you.
Yeah.
And they will want to work with you. And all you need to do is continue down the path. If the path gets rocky, that doesn't mean give up. If the path gets hard, that doesn't mean throw in the towel.
Right.
It is your responsibility to keep moving forward.
You asked me film industry specifically, and I said yes. However, comma,
comma.
I knew whatever you're gonna say was gonna be factual for life. If you build what you're supposed to build, you know what your purpose is.
Yes, sir.
The only one blocking you is you.
That's good. That's good. The only thing blocking you, the only thing stopping you, the only thing that's hindering you is yourself.
So why haven't you built it yet? Why haven't you built it yet? Because you're sitting there, you're waiting for that perfect moment. But fun fact, that perfect moment may not ever be there. Or this may be the lesson you need to learn to get to where you want to be.
That's good. That's good.
Man, yo, listeners, I can't begin to tell you how cool it is to talk to your twin.
Man, twin, where have you been? Nobody knows me like you. But brother, it has been my honor and privilege to be in your world and your energy, man. From the moment we met, I knew that this was going to be a lifelong fellowship, and to be able to impact worlds and change people's visions, right? And I think that that's the full circle from bare vision to visions of hope.
We you know what I'm saying? Not only I am vision of hope, but we are vision of hope. Let's get
Absolutely. Let's get it, man. So thank you so much for having me, bro. And
before we go,
let's do it.
We have to end with this.
Okay.
Language is a big thing to me. And I feel like we're just barely scratching the surface. So I want to have you back here sooner rather than later.
Okay.
But language, once again, when BP Edwards walks on set, when BP Edwards shows up in your space, explain to me what the people are getting in one word.
Greatness. Greatness. When I step on set, I'm going to give my best. And I think that that was the best thing that I've heard today. But greatness is my best, and I don't settle for anything less than that. They're getting greatness.
Don't settle for less, people. Don't settle for less.
You're selling yourself short.
Don't sell yourself short. And real quick, this isn't just about the people around you. Okay? Sure, we don't want to settle for less with our community of people that we have around you, sure. But have those high expectations for yourself as well.
Absolutely. 100%.
If you know you could show up great, then why would you show up any less?
You are a scholar and a gentleman, my friend. Scholar and a gentleman.
BP Edwards, I can't wait, man, to check out some of the projects. We didn't even get, real quick, before you go, tell us some of the projects that you've worked on, all the things that you've done. Tell us a little bit more about some of your art before we head out here.
So I am a cinematographer. I am based out of Pasadena, California, born and raised. And some of the things that I'm most excited about right now that I've worked on are three different projects. The first one being Contours. Contours was shot, executively produced by Color Creative through Issa Rae's talent management company,
Mm.
and being a part of the inaugural cohort of the cinematographers for the Find Your People program. It was a phenomenal experience, and we worked with a phenomenal team of directors, cinematographers, producers, writers, production designers, costumer, editor, and we came together to produce this piece. Our piece was completely in American Sign Language.
Wow.
And it was such a phenomenal short film starring the phenomenal and talent. I use the word phenomenal because this is really how I feel about this. With Lauren Ridloff and John Autry II. What a piece. And we premiered that on the Sony lot in Culver City in April or May. I think it was might have been May. But that project is going to be going out into the film festival circuit. So I'm looking forward to following that project. I also have worked with a director friend of mine, Candace Patrick, on her sophomore film, Finding Jamia's Spirit, which will be premiering at the Real Sisters Film Festival in New York, with dates that are escaping me at the moment. But finding Real Sisters of the Diaspora Film Festival is an easy Google search to find those dates. So if you are in the New York area, please go and see that film. The world premiere will be there, and you can meet Candace Patrick. She is a phenomenal director that writes from a very special place. And lastly, I worked with a nonprofit organization called Black Girls Film Camp, and that organization is a and without butchering their mission, I believe that it is an organization that takes young Black talent, young Black women, and gives them opportunities to direct their films and teach them the industry and expose them to resources and create a change agency in the world. And I was able to work with a small team of my friends to come together for this organization and work with a young director named Emery Boone. She is a 18-year-old director from Sydney, Australia,
Mm.
and she
Wow.
produced and directed a small project called Soul Sister, that talks about the experiences of Black women and being in the experiences that it's just them in a world of individuals that do not look like them, do not understand them, and etc. Especially as it relates to hair and what community looks like, as she finds how she can be a better steward of her energy and in support of the vision that she has for herself, her hair, and for her surroundings. Beautiful project. We just premiered over in Charlotte, and the film won best overall film. So best picture came back to Team Emery. So I'm so proud of her and the Black Girls Film Camp. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be something in that space. So that project will have its own life and shelf life in the film festival circuit as well. And we're looking forward to sending out more information about that. So stay tuned for all the things. And I'm looking forward to being able to showcase my cinematography with the world.
BP, man, you're everywhere and anywhere at the same time, my brother.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
And you mentioned that first one about being in the inaugural cohort, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact about we talked about how it's been such a blessing to meet, but that wouldn't have been possible without my brother Jalen Blott, who's now a part
Shout
of
out
that.
Jalen, man. Shout out Jalen. Jalen is in year 2. Where's the mic? Shout out my boy. Shout out my boy Jalen. Big time for Jalen, man. Jalen has been a spiritual accountability partner for me
Yeah,
so many different seasons of my life. And in the short time that we've been able to know each other, I feel like we've known each other now 3-4 years. And I know that you've known Jalen all your life. So it's
yeah,
just like,
yeah,
what a great person. I
yeah.
could I give their flowers while they're alive and they can smell them,
100%.
man. This is a person that I feel like the world genuinely does not deserve, but the world needs more heroes. And Jalen Blott is a hero. He is
There's
definitely someone who puts the armor on and goes forth and conquers, man. And I could not imagine being in a world that does not have an energy like that.
And as a director himself, he's created some amazing works. Can't wait to have him on.
Yep.
And that'll definitely happen at some point for sure. But if it wasn't for him and that panel and everything y'all was on, we wouldn't have connected as well. So all these things are a blessing. Jalen, if you're listening, man, you're a blessing, bro. Thank you for everything you've done for both of our lives.
Man, and continue to be a part of them, brother, because you are someone we need in the world for sure.
BP, man, it was a pleasure having you today.
Bum, 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 bum.
I don't got no sound effects. However, there will be some outro music that takes us to the end.
Fire. There we go. I'm dancing to it. This is me dancing to, man.
BP, it was a pleasure. Thank you all for listening. Not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope. And thank you for checking out another episode of the Speak Your Vision podcast. Vision.